Take a look at these two pictures. Look close at what's going on. On the surface, you may think that these two pictures are of teachers teaching. Now think about this. One of these teachers was able to get multiple pieces of student data before she began her instruction. The other teacher has very little student data available to her. One of these teachers was able to make specific groups based on her students' levels and target skills, while the other teacher has to instruct her class in a whole group format. So why is it that these two pictures are microcosms of what's happening in classrooms across the country? And why is this happening? Why is a plethora of data being used for reading instruction while very little student data is used for math instruction? The answer is simple. In reading, we provide teachers with detailed systems that are in place before instruction ever occurs. In math, there are very few, if any, systems in place. Think about what a diagnostic reading assessment can do. Analyze errors, measure fluency, accuracy, comprehension. If we suspect a student is struggling with decoding, we can give them a supplemental assessment on vowel teams and adjust our instruction accordingly. Think about the purpose of our math assessments. They're usually given so we can record a score or check a box next to a standard. If a child does not do well on the assessment is sent home, corrected, brought back to school the next day, and instruction continues to the next concept. Think about how the materials for reading are directly connected to the assessment. If the leveled books are directly connected to the assessment, therefore they can support the assessment data. If a child's instructional level is a level G, that teacher has access to appropriate materials for instruction. Think about math materials. The book is the curriculum. If you are in second grade, all second graders get the exact same thing. On the first day of school, everyone is doing page 1, second day page 2, third day page 3, and so on. Our pretests may be given, but most of the time those pretests are for teacher evaluation data, not to help improve instruction. For students who struggle in reading, we have many programs and people in place. LLI, for example, is a separate reading program with its own library and materials that are designed to meet the needs of each individual student. For math in general, it's the classroom teacher's responsibility to do interventions. Some schools may have a person responsible for math intervention, but overall the number of support staff for reading dwarfs the number that we have for math support. Finally, our system of reading provides a structure that is in place so we can identify, instruct, and catch up struggling readers. We can assess, look at a chart, and know instantly whether a child is a few levels within grade level behind or a few grade levels behind. And we never panic. We know exactly what to do. We know what systems to use, what strategies to use, and what programs to put in place. Which approach is better for kids? And the answer to that is obvious. So the next question is, why don't we use the same approach with math? And the answer is simple. We don't have the systems, assessments, materials, and programs in place for math that we do for reading. Until now.
Today we are here to learn about the Primary Numeracy Assessment Program. And this program is designed to address a critical need, as many students are being left behind by the current structure that's in place. We teach math using a one-size-fits-all approach, which we all know doesn't work, yet we continue to use the same structure with minimal changes and expect different results. The Primary Numeracy Assessment Program is designed to be a supplemental program, which means it's not designed to take the place of your math program. It's designed to be used alongside with your math program. And the supplemental program is designed to fill in essential numeracy skills that are often missed by your Tier 1 general education math curriculum. It has a very flexible design, allowing it to be done for as little as 10 to 12 minutes per day or as many as 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the content area and depth the teacher wants to address. It can be used as a Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 intervention. So just picture this. Say a teacher wanted to commit 15 minutes a day to this program. And they're going to do it 4 days a week. If they were to do the program 4 days a week for 15 minutes, that would be an additional 60 minutes of math or numeracy instruction a week. 240 minutes per month, and 2,160 additional high-quality minutes of instruction per year. And that's all if a teacher just commits to doing this program 15 minutes a day with their students. And the assessment and instructional approach were developed based on multiple research sources, which can be viewed on our website, which we're about to go through that. I just wanted to emphasize too that everything you see today, all of the assessments, the frameworks, the activities guides, the leveled library for counting and counting by tens, you'll be receiving all those things today for free. So you're going to leave with a lot of free resources and plenty to get you started. And so at the very end of the webinar, I'll show you where you go on the website to get access to all these free materials that you will receive today. So to take a peek at the research and the design of the assessment and our instructional model, you can go to our website, and if you click on Assessment and Curriculum and you go to our approach right there, you'll go ahead and when you click on that page, there's going to be two documents that are on there. The first one is about the research embedded in the primary numeracy assessment and framework. And what this document essentially does, it goes piece by piece through our assessment, talks about why that particular piece of why that area or that skill set was chosen. It talks about the research findings for that and why that's considered to be a critical area of numeracy development. And so it goes through all parts of the assessment and just breaks it down. So it's a pretty quick read. It'll go through, but it'll help you explain, okay, this is why these particular areas were chosen. This is what the research says and why these are important areas. The second part of a second document that's on that page is just as important as the first part. And though research was very important in designing the assessment, more importantly is once you have that assessment data, what do you do with it? So the second part talks about our instructional approach, and data ignites the process, but the CRA fuels the learning, and we use something called the CRA instructional model, and this goes through and explains about how all of our materials are designed, how our instructional components are, how everything follows that CRA instructional model. So if you're just interested in that, just to take a quick look, it's on the website, you can take a look at it. They're all pretty quick reads and has everything documented there for you. Now we're going to go over all the materials that you will receive today for free. First is the primary numeracy assessment. And the assessment is a diagnostic tool designed to identify the numeracy deficits that students may have. This is a one-of-a-kind assessment that not only evaluates basic rote skills, but also assesses mathematical reasoning and the types of strategies students use to solve problems. Following the assessment is the primary numeracy framework, which serves as a comprehensive guide to understanding numeracy development. This framework helps teachers gain insight into their students' skill levels. It includes both a horizontal and vertical alignment of skills across multiple grade levels, allowing educators to pinpoint critical gaps in students' understanding. Next is the leveling chart, an essential resource for teachers and parents who may be unfamiliar with how a child's skills align with grade levels. This chart provides clarity on where a student stands and what areas need improvement. While these resources, the assessment, the framework, and the leveling chart, are all invaluable for data collection and organization, they alone will not improve a child's skills. The next components focus on the instructional materials that leverage collected data and drive student progress. The Level Activities Guide is a critical resource that includes structured levels and meaningful activities for teachers to implement, helping to close the learning gaps. Additionally, the Leveled Library consists of pre-made lessons, workbooks, and materials designed to target and isolated skills and enhance numeracy development. So all these materials that you see right now, the assessment, the framework, the leveling chart, and there's a lot more you're going to be getting just this, all these things, the counting library for tens, for counting by ones and tens, the level activities guide, you will be receiving all this today for free. So at the end of the webinar, I'll show you where you need to go and what you need to do to get access to all these really great materials. So now we're going to do a quick summary. We're going to show you what this would look like. And the first part is, no matter how you're using this program, is you're going to start with the primary numeracy assessment, right? This is truly the catalyst of everything. So this assessment, as we talked, and you'll see it not only measures basic skills, basic rote skills, but also measures mathematical thinking, mathematical reasoning. So you'd administer this assessment, and then when you're done, what you would do is you take the data from the assessment and you do something called skill plotting, and we'll show you how to do this later on in the training. But you would do skill plotting where you plot the skills on the primary numeracy framework. So after you give the assessment, you'll do something called skill plotting. We'll show you how to do that. And essentially, you're just taking the data from the assessment and then you're putting it on this framework. So you can see where a student's skills may fall. And the way that this is designed, this is essentially kindergarten up to the end of second grade or the beginning of third grade of how this sort of continuum works. And so the next slide will show kind of how the framework is broken down. And the way this document is broken down, it's essentially the critical skills from numeracy skills from kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, and it's loosely tied into thirds. So if you were to look at it and kind of divide it just roughly into thirds, it doesn't line up absolutely perfectly, but it's a good sort of resource to figure out, like, okay, where are these kids at? And the whole point of this framework is to find out, okay, what skills are they really lagging behind in? So what do we need to target to start building them up? Because so often with math intervention, we don't really know, like, what are we actually working on? Are we just working on what they're working on in their classroom, or are we actually going to try to fill in the gaps? So the whole goal of this is truly to find the skills and fill in the gaps, okay? So if you have like a second or third grader, obviously most of their dots from their skill plotting should be falling in this second grade third over here. But this particular student, they have a lot of skills that fall in that first grade zone and also the kindergarten zone. So what you would do is you're going to go through and say, all right, we're going to really focus on these skills over here that have fallen kind of in this first grade zone or this kindergarten zone, and we'll work on those first. And so one of these skills is the counting by tens off decade. So yes, they can count by tens on decade, but they're really struggling to count by tens off decade. So we'll take a look at what this would look like when we're implementing this. So here's how instruction looks like. So this would be, we have our library system in which we talk about what other things that you'll have access to today will be our library system. You have access to the counting by ones and the counting by 10. So this is a counting by 10 skill. I'm going to show you how this works. And when you go into the e-library, there's something called the 2.0. The 2.0 is always going to be your introduction lessons. And so this is teaching students how to count by tens off decade. So it has like the prompts that are in there. It's a very structured lesson that you're going to do. So you go through and do this mini lesson with them. This is essentially a whiteboard that you have, and you would go ahead and just project it, hook your laptop up to it, and you go through and you do the questions with them and you do the teaching with them. Okay? Let's say you a lot of teachers still you don't have access to a whiteboard. You can always just pull this up on your laptop and share it with your small group. Or there are still some virtual, there's a lot of kids who go to virtual school now. You still are able to do this if you're teaching over Zoom or Teams or Google. Any of those, you also have access to that. So after you're into that e-library system and you do the lesson with them, there's always going to be some type of practice piece too. So your first part would be you'd go through, do it with that 2.0, do that introduction lesson, then there's a practice piece that goes along with that. Well, a lot of times it's going to take your students more than one lesson to learn how to do something, okay? So this is just be your first piece of instruction that you do. So then after you would do that introduction lesson from that 2.0, we have something called the level activities guide. And this is just where activities are structured. And we'll spend some time going through this later on, but this is just where there's the level and then has the activity that you can do with students. And this used to be how we did it. And then we have access to in our drive to where you get a lot of these materials. But what we've realized is this level activities guide, though this was great, a lot of people still had trouble interpreting, like, well, what exactly am I supposed to do? And I see there's a little diagram. So what we now have is we have something that's called instant intervention. So when you hear level activities guide, you also need to think, oh, the instant intervention resource, that is these activities right here. It takes those activities and turns them into prepackaged lessons. So for this one, for level A, for counting by tens, that has a little lesson description right here where it says click here for materials. You literally click there, it gives you the material, you print it. And these are great because it takes less than 2 minutes of prep. When people were just using level activities guide, sometimes it took people a while to find stuff and there wasn't always like a description of how you're supposed to do the activity. So this was a really big improvement that we had. And so you go through, there's a lot of different, the instant intervention has a lot of, these are mostly hands-on lessons that take 2 or 3 minutes to prep, very easy, has the description, and you go and you do it. So you go from that 2.0, which is that structured mini lesson, to now you're doing a more hands-on type lesson with that. And then what's great about these lessons too is it tells you, okay, in the 2.0, here's where the practice piece is at. If you were looking for a practice piece for when you're done, that your students can actually do a practice piece, or go into our 1.0. So this one, normally when you're in the 2.0, you'll be using the 2.0 practice piece when you do that mini lesson. Also, we have our 1.0, which is a lot of extra practice. So you would be able to go through and do those extra practice pieces too that are in that. So when you think level activities guide, think that instant intervention resource, and that's really structured to help you figure out what you need to do as well. And the last part, which is a really important part, is the progress monitoring. Okay, so there are actually two assessments. When you go into the assessment folder, and we'll show you this later, there is a version 1 and a version 2. So you're always able to use that version 1 and version 2 to help you with your progress monitoring. Okay, and at the end of the assessment, there's a page where you can go ahead and you can put their levels for where they are. You put the date and then their level. And then as you instruct, you can go back and you can go ahead and use the assessment 1 or the version 2 to help you do your progress monitoring. Also, if you look into the eLibrary 2.0, which is where your introduction lessons are, so you have your mini lesson, your student practice, this is how this is structured, and you guys will have this in the folders in your free resources as well. But if you take a look right here, there is a progress monitoring section too. So not only do you have access to the version 1 and version 2 of the assessment, you also have within that eLibrary system, there is formative assessment for progress monitoring as well. And so this is what this looks like too. So you have assessment several places where you can go and where you can track your progress monitoring, and also where you can go to get like the questions or the documentation that you need to. So this is just a quick summary of what from giving the assessment to using the resources within the library to the progress monitoring. Just a quick summary of what everything looks like how everything works and what it looks like. And the last part is just this suggested 5-day instructional plan. This is on our website. This is in the free materials too. It's just a suggestion, and it kind of shows you what things look like with the different resources. You have your eLibrary 2.0. Remember that leveled activities guide? That also means the instant intervention, where those lessons from the activities guide are prepackaged for you. And then you have you always can go back to eLibrary 1.0, which is just more supplemental lessons that you can use. And then there's you have, again, you can do lessons from that level activities guide or that instant intervention, those prepackaged lessons. And then finally you have progress monitoring. So this is kind of what it looks like. And there's a video, a 7 or 8 minute video that will go through and show you what all that looks like.
Okay, I just want to emphasize too, everything that you just saw, the assessment, the leveling charts, the guides, the library, all those things you will receive for free today. And at the end of the webinar, I'll show you where you need to go to receive those resources. So why is a supplemental numeracy program needed? And so what we're about to watch is we're going to watch some second graders do some addition, subtraction, 2-digit with regrouping and ungrouping. Okay, and all these students were deemed proficient because they passed their addition, subtraction with regrouping and ungrouping test. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch them do that. And then we're going to take a step back and test some of the basic numeracy skills. And we're going to take a look at how much more information we have about them as math students when we actually took a step back to test some basic foundational numeracy skills compared to what just having them do those algorithms told us.
Stop? No, can we start at 198, please?
198. 98, 108, 100.
So what comes after that number?
189.
Good. Then after that one?
100.
All right.
Can you start at 98?
98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 200, 201, 202, 203, 200.
Okay, you can start at 98 for me?
98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 200.
$73. Can you count backwards from 73?
73, 72, 71, 60, 61.
What about 100?
16,
Okay. Can you start at 23 for me?
23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12,
Okay.
11.
Stop there. And can you start at 42 for me?
42, 40, 42, 41, 42, 41, 40. Wait, hang on.
Okay. And can you count backwards from 104 for me?
104, 103, 102, 101. 20, wait, where were we
Okay.
again?
Backwards from 104.
104, 103, 102, 100, 101. Am I doing this right?
It sounds good so far.
Wait, are we going backwards?
Yes, you're going backwards, okay.
104, 100, 103, 102, 101, 76.
All right. Now count by tens starting at 39.
69. 69, 60. I don't know.
Okay. Can you count by tens for me?
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90.
Okay. Can you count by 10 starting at 6?
6, 16, 7, 68, 69.
Okay, let's try another one, okay? Can you count by 10 starting at 19?
9, 19, 18, 17, 16.
Oh, I want you to count by tens, okay?
Oh.
So count by 10, start at 19.
9, 19, 10, 20.
So let's reflect on what we just saw. We saw students successfully doing addition, subtraction algorithms with grouping and ungrouping. And one thing that I think we can all agree on is just watching a student do an algorithm is not going to give you much insight into their mathematical skills. So what we did is we watched them successfully do that. They all solved it. They all got the correct answer. And then we took a step back and looked at some of their basic numeracy skills. Count forward by ones. 2 of the students couldn't get past 109 and the third student couldn't get past 198. And remember, the standard in 2nd grade is they need to be able to count up to 1,000. So the question is, okay, they have this hole, when is it going to get filled in? Because they have about a third of 2nd grade left. That's like money, time, a little bit of fractions, a little bit of multiplication, division, some story problems. So what they're missing is not part of the curriculum. And when they go in the 3rd grade, they're going to start the year off with multiplication, division. So when are these children going to discover that it doesn't go 109, 200? Count backwards by 1. Remember, this is a skill, between kindergarten and 1st grade. And they could not count backwards from 104, and some of them couldn't even count backwards from 2-digit numbers within, the 1 to 104 range. And finally, counting by tens. Yes, all these students can count by tens on decade, but when asked to count by tens off decade, none of these students could do it. And so think of the spiral effect this is going to have on their place value, on their mental math, their ability to do more advanced addition subtraction strategies, and how place value is going to be broken, because if they get 56 plus 10, they shouldn't have to count by ones. They should be able to go 56, 66. That's a place value concept, understanding why that works. We only went through the first 3 questions of the primary numeracy assessment. Imagine how much more information we could have if we gave them the entire assessment and what we could do with that data. So now we're going to spend some time going into great detail, focusing on the primary numeracy framework. And earlier I described the primary numeracy framework as a map to the land of numeracy. So we're going to take a deep dive now into what the primary numeracy framework is and why it's such an essential document to the primary numeracy assessment program. So again, the primary numeracy framework, it is organized where the more basic numeracy skills are at the top. So if you take a look at numeral identification, counting sequence, addition, subtraction, part, whole, relationship, and place value. And the way it works, goes from left to right. Left are the easier skills, and as the skills progress, it gets more difficult as it goes to the right. But what this document really is it is your standards, okay? So what this document really is, it's your standards. So if you take a look, and as we start to layer your standards from all the different grades from kindergarten to 1st grade to 2nd grade, this is what a vertical and horizontal document would look like with the curriculum of those grades on it. So now if you take a look, it shows what your standards look like. So if you're a 1st grade teacher, you now can easily look back or look forward at what the actual standards are for what's coming before you, what comes after you. And if you look at it as it's arranged like this is what it's arranged as. The first third is kindergarten, the middle third is 1st grade, and the last third is 2nd grade. And this is a much easier way to look at curriculum when you're a teacher than if it's something that looks like, if it looks something like this. And this is how we're used to seeing standards, sort of written in a bullet point. These are kindergarten standards, and often kindergarten teachers only know their standards. They don't even know what comes after, what they're expected to do, why they're expected to teach something in the way it is. And it's almost kind of ridiculous the way that our standards are written, where each grade level only gets their standards, and there's very few documents that exist where you can actually see the vertical and the horizontal alignment of the standards. Another thing to understand about the primary numeracy framework is that even though it looks like it's all these separate areas, these domains of numeracy are all interconnected with each other. For example, if you struggle with forward or backward counting, you're going to struggle with basic addition subtraction. If you can't count by tens off decade, you're going to struggle with addition subtraction to 20 with the splitting and jumping method. You're also going to struggle with place value concepts. If you don't understand part whole 5 to 10, you're never going to be able to use the make 10 strategy or more efficient strategies for your facts to 20. If you don't understand place value, it's going to affect you when you go to use place value for addition subtraction. So it goes on and on, the constant connections, how a deficit in one area can directly affect a domain or another area of numeracy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the 8 plus 6 activity. And what this activity is designed to do is to make you aware that though students may get the right answers, there's a range of abilities that you're going to see in your classroom. So think of the problem 8 plus 6. Picture you are a classroom teacher and you have some students and they're solving 8 plus 6 and you watch your students solve problems. The first one is counts on using fingers. So that's 8 plus 6 and the student goes 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So they count on and they use their fingers, right? Next strategy is mental counting on. Student counts on mentally. They did not use any fingers or objects to keep track of their counts. They go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and get an answer. Count on a number line. Student finds the number 8 on the number line, then she counts the next 6 digits and lands on 14. 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lands on 14, and 14 is the answer. Uses counters, drops back to 1. Student counts out 8 counters. Then she counts out 6 counters. Next, she drops back to 1 and counts all of the counters and gets 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then drops back and recounts all those and gets 14. Calculator. Student types in 8 plus 6 on a calculator and gets 14. Compensation with a known fact. Student uses a known fact that if 8 plus 8 is 16. He knows that 6 is 2 less than 8, so he gets the 16, compensates and subtracts and gets 2. Very complex, but the doubles plus or minus strategy is what that is. And partition and make 10. Student knows that 8 is close to 10. She partitions the 6 into 4 plus 2 so she can make a 10. She knows that 8 plus 2 is 10 and that 10 plus 4 is 14. She makes a 10, then quickly adds on. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you about 30 seconds, and I want you to look at these strategies, and I want you to think, okay, which of these strategies would I consider to be a low-level strategy? Which of these strategies would I consider to be a mid-level or a transitional strategy? And which of these are going to be a high-level strategy? And while you're doing this and looking at these, think about this. All of these strategies are used in a first grade and a second grade classroom. So you have a range of abilities, but yet the one thing they all have in common is they're all getting the correct answer. So let's take a look now. I'll give you about 10 seconds. And now what we're going to do is we're going to focus in on the low-level strategies. And take a look why. Okay, why is using counters a low-level strategy? So addition is when you have a number or a quantity and you put another quantity on it. When a student goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and drops back to 1, they've lost all concept of the 8 and the 6. All they did was make a set, and then they're going back. So they're not even adding. What they're really doing is just making a set and counting it. Take a look at this one down here. Why is this considered a low level? Students are supposed to use number lines. All the students have number lines on their desks, and we encourage them to. But look how the student's using this number line. They're not going 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're going 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, landing on it and getting 14. And I see this strategy a lot when I go into classrooms because kids have their name tag. There's a number line on their name tag. And teacher will say, okay, 8 plus 6, fine, 8, now count 6. They count 6 and they land on it. Think about this calculator. No one ever gives first graders a calculator to solve a problem. But yet sometimes the strategies we allow and encourage students to use is no better than giving them a calculator, because if you take these counters away or take that number line away, students won't have any strategies to fall back on. The next ones are the transitional ones, and sometimes we'll say, okay, students are using their fingers, it has to be a low level. The way that this student is using their fingers is not necessarily a low level. They're counting on, they're going 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're just keeping track of the counts. If they were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that would be a low level strategy. If they build 8 and then go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But just counting on, that's just a transitional strategy that all kids go through. The next one is mental counting. It may seem like it's very similar to counting on with fingers, but what they're doing, they're going, no one goes 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What the student's doing is they're going 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They're partitioning the count, so they know that there's 3 counts of 2 in 6, or they could go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or they know that there's 2 counts of 3 in that. And the last two, which are obvious, partition, make 10, and a compensation with a known fact, we know that whenever a student is able to take a number out of its original form, do something to it, and then put it back, we know that's a very high level of thinking. So how do we miss it? How do we miss it where so many students seem to leave, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and things seem to be fine? Well, let's take a look. So one way where we can visualize this is this. Students who understand math, what numeracy looks like in their head is they're able to make constant connections between these areas, and there's overlap. For students who struggle with numeracy, they often don't make the connections that are needed, and they almost have a lot of knowledge, but in isolation. So take a look at this. This is just a screener test that could be used. And what the intent of this is, the score a child gets on this determines sort of where their instruction will occur. But here's the problem when you don't track strategies, okay? So say you have a student that says, what is the sum of which one has a sum of 5? So you have a student who comes through and they draw them all out. And they draw 4 plus 1 is 5, and then they do 6 plus 9, draw it out, count it up, and get 15. They get credit for this. Even though they used a very low-level strategy, they get credit for this, and this is counted as credit. So you have a student who goes through and uses their fingers. And this student goes through, uses their fingers, gets the correct answer. Again, there's no evidence they use their fingers, so we say, well, look, yeah, they didn't draw it out, so they're okay. And then the student goes through, uses their fingers, gets the correct answer, and gets 15. Other student who goes through and they're able to solve this very efficiently, and they're just a 4 and 1 is 5, and 6 plus 9, well, I made a 10 and added quickly and got 15. So all 3 of those students use very different strategies, but they all got credit because they used the same, they all got credit because they got the same answer. And so that's sort of what's wrong, is we're not keeping track of how children are actually solving these problems. We're just looking at the right answers. We're now going to administer the assessment. And for those of you who are at home, and if you want to follow along with your own assessment, just go to numeracyconsultants.net, click on webinars. And if you go to the very bottom where it'll say lower elementary webinar downloads, click on that, and that is the primary numeracy assessment is right there. Go ahead and print it. You can just follow along with us. If you don't have the assessment right now, you'll be okay because it's on the screen, so you're gonna be able to see it as it's administered. Also, to save time, there's certain parts of this that are very easy to give, so we may skip forward through certain parts, like counting and numeral identification. But other parts, such as addition, subtraction, and part whole, will need more time to go through those parts. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get started. Oh, and to just let you know, this was done over Zoom. So this primary numeracy assessment was administered over Zoom. And just so you know, this is a very smart child who we're about to give this assessment to. And the reason why is I wanted everybody to be able to go through every question, because on this assessment, if they get one wrong, you stop and you go to the next section. So I want everybody to be able to go through every question. There will be parts where other children sort of pop up, and we just show you what different kids look like taking this assessment. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started, okay? Okay. All right, Reed, can you start counting at the number 1, and I'll tell you when to stop?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
Okay.
11,
You can stop there. Go ahead and start at the number 9 now.
9, 10.
Last one. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead just so you know he was successful. He was able to do all of these ones. So, and it's just having them start at that number and stop, and we're now at 995 to 1,000. Start at 995. 995.
995, 996, 997, 998, 999, 1,000.
All right. Can you count backwards from 10 now? We're going to count backwards.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Can you count backwards from 23 for me?
23, 22, 21, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15,
Okay.
14.
Can you do that again? Start at 23. I didn't like what I saw, so I asked him to do it again. Count backwards again.
23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16.
Okay. Count backwards from 42. Backwards from 42.
42, 41, 30, 31. Wait, no, I'm not counting forward.
Try it again.
42, 41, 30, 30.
2 times in a row, continuing the struggle. So that's considered to be wrong. I'll let him finish up, then we're going to go to the next section.
9, 38, 37, 36, 35, 34, 33.
Okay. All right. All right, and so if we go ahead, and this is the cover sheet, and all you do is, this is where you record their level of mastery, okay? This is what level they are. And so he was a level E, forward counting. He maxed out on this one. And he's a level B, which means he can count back from 23. He was not able to get level C or level D, so that's what he is. So now we're going to go to the addition subtraction part, okay? This is the most complex part of this assessment, because we are not just giving him 4 addition problems and 4 subtraction problems and looking for the answer. We're tracking the level and how sophisticated the level is. So if you take a look right here, there is DB, CO, M, and F. And what DB represents is drop back. It means drop back to 1. It says uses finger objects to represent all objects or all numbers included. May start counting from 1. So it doesn't mean they're using their fingers to count on. It means they start at 1 and count out to 7, count out to 6, and go all the way through, okay? Next is counts on, which means, you count on. Counts back means you count back. Memory means you ask them like, oh, those 7 and 6, they'll say 13. You say, how'd you get that? They'll say, I just knew it. And finally is flexible thinking, which is like using a 10 structure, using doubles, and so on. So just so you know, there's no differentiation on this part between memory and flexible thinking. Both of these are considered to be level D, okay? This is the only part of the assessment where if they get the answer wrong, you keep giving it. So you give the entire thing, even if they get it wrong, okay? And if a child shows multiple levels, the lowest level is tested level, and you'll see what that looks like in a second. So I want to show you this, because this is important to understand what level A is, because there's 2 parts of level A. Level A means you drop back to 1 and you recount everything from 1, or you re-represent. And so we're going to watch a quick video so you can understand what a level A is, a level B, a level C, and a level D before we do this. Okay, here's what a drop back looks like. Drop back to 1 using your fingers. 8 plus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right. Here's what a re-representation of 8 plus 6 looks like. So remember, they're both level A, whether they drop back to 1 or if they do this, they go like that. Now, 8 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if they build the 8 and physically have to see the 8 first and go like that and then start counting on. Sorry about that. So that was, what a re-representation of 8 plus 6 looks like. So remember, they're both level A, whether they drop back to 1 or if they do this, they go like that. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if they build the 8 and physically have to see the 8 first and go like that and then start counting on, that would be considered a re-representation, which is level A. And then finally, 8 plus 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's just counting on. Okay, and just to go through, I want to explain this too. So level A, if they count from 1, it's considered a drop back. If they build it, have to physically see both numbers, C and 8, and then count on, that's re-representation, that's level A. Here's what's interesting. They can get the right answer for level A, and that's it. Level B means they're counting on, counting back, but they're inaccurate, which means they're counting on, but they're getting it wrong. So if it's 8 plus 4, they go like 8, 9, 10, 11, where kids will count the number they're counting on from as a count, and they're always 1 short. So even if they get the answer wrong, if they're counting on, that's a more sophisticated strategy than what's happening right there. So that'd be a level B. Level C means you can count on, and level D is you either know it or you have flexible strategies, okay? All right, let's go ahead now. We're gonna take a look at what the student looks like. I'm going to show you some math problems, okay? And what I want you to do is you're going to solve these problems for me, okay? And this is a special file that's in your materials that you're able to do. Can you see it now? Over Zoom, you can do that. Okay. Can you see that math problem?
Yep.
Okay. Solve that problem. Solve 7 plus 6 for me.
13.
And how'd you get that answer, Reed?
Well, I already knew it.
You knew it? You just knew it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ready? 8 plus 4.
12.
And how'd you get 12? What was the thinking that went on in your head?
Well, what I did was I remembered extra math. My mom put me on 2nd grade. I'm like, 8 plus 4, 12.
And you just knew it was 12? Okay.
Yep.
Memory. 9 plus 6.
15.
And how'd you get 15? Because you didn't know that right away. Can you explain to me how you got the 15?
Like, wait. Are we starting? I'm like, okay, maybe 16. No. I subtract 1. And I'm like, 15? 9 plus 1 equals 10. Then I only have 5 left. Add 5 to 10, 15.
All right. And 8 plus 7. 8 plus 7. And that last
15,
one was passive flexible strategy. All right. How'd you get that?
Well, usually people ask me that question, and it's usually the first question they ask me. So what it is? So 15.
Okay. So he had memory, facile, flexible, and memory. And what that means is he was a level A with his addition because he was either facile, flexible, or memory. So good balance between those. He knew some and he used other strategies as well. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a student who uses completely different strategies, okay? Those 15, got it. Okay. All right, Reed, can you count by tens for me?
I'm going to ask you to solve some addition and subtraction problems,
And as you can see, this is a live test.
okay? What is 7 plus 6?
Can I use my fingers?
Whatever you need to do.
What you can't see because the camera cut it off, he just built an 8 on his fingers, so he's re-representing.
13.
All right, 8 plus 4.
So he dropped back, and he dropped back because he re-represented the problem. He had to perceptually see everything.
12.
9 plus
Did the same strategy, built 8 on his fingers, then counted on.
6.
Again, built that 9, now he's counting on.
15.
8 plus 7.
Built the 8.
13.
10.
So what's the truth of this one is we keep track if they got the right answer or not. Remember, we're not always worried about if the right answer, but he got that one wrong. But it still was a drop back, okay? And here's what you need to understand. This student is pretty deep into 2nd grade. So think about it. Every single math fact, he's not even counting on. He has to re-represent every single digit in that to do it. So think of, going into 3rd grade. Yes, he's very efficient using his fingers, but he is way too old to be using such low-level strategies. He's become dependent on them.
Minus 7.
What's he doing? He just built a 10 on his fingers.
3.
7 minus 6.
1.
7 minus 6. You can do it on top of the table this time.
Okay. 1.
15 minus.
Now that last one was a drop back. Built the 7, and then he took away the fingers.
8.
Watch very carefully what he does. 5. Gets to 10. Makes 10. Goes back to 15. Counts back.
7.
14 take away, or minus 6.
Watch what he does.
Take away what?
6. 14 minus 6.
14, 10, 4, 14 counting back, re-representing.
8.
8. So he's efficient, but guess what? He's become a master at using his fingers to recreate every single problem because that's what he's had to do to survive. But remember, he's just too old to have these low-level strategies. So when we go and do interventions with him, we have to say, look, he can get these answers right, but he is stuck in such a low level of thinking, we need to do something to raise it. So if we take a look at him, he was a level A for addition and subtraction. He's constantly re-representing and recreating every problem with his fingers. And we're going to look at another student now. Remember, if a child shows multiple levels, the lowest level is tested. We've yet to see a child show multiple levels. I'm going to ask you to solve some addition and subtraction problems. Can you 7 plus 6 for me?
13.
Count it on. And can you solve 8 plus 4 for me?
12.
Count it on. And how about 9 plus 6?
9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Count it on. You said 15?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And 8 plus 7?
8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15.
All right, now, can you do... So think about it. He counted on, counted on, counted on. Now, so we know that for his addition, he's going to be a level C because he's counting on and he's counting back and he's accurate with it, okay? Think about what he might be for his subtraction level. 10 minus 7 for me. What did he just do? He is re-representing the problem, so he's dropping back.
3.
All right. And can you do 7 minus 6 for me? Built the 7, drop back by re-representing.
1.
All right. And can you do 15 minus 8 for me?
15, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15.
16.
So he's attempting to count up because someone taught him along the way that for subtraction, you can just count your way up. But think about this. If he understand the counting up strategy, why didn't he use it right there for that one? 16. So 15 minus 8 is 16? Okay. And 14 minus 6?
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 8.
And so one thing with students who struggle, they're consistently inconsistent. He was not able to use the count on strategy for subtraction there. He was able to do it there. So he was unique, not unique, but he was, you'll notice many kids' subtraction lags their addition because they don't have part whole in place. But his addition was a level C, his subtraction was a level A. So think about this too. He showed a drop back, a count on, and say he would have successfully counted on for these two, but was dropping back for those. He would still been a level A for dropping back, because if they have to resort to recreating problems, it means there's something wrong. There's a misconception somewhere. So even if he's able to use the strategy sometimes, but not all the time, then that shows that there's a difficulty with that. For me, count by tens for me.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 100.
All right. Can you count by tens starting at 6 for me? Starting at 6.
6, 12. But do you say counting by sixes?
No, I want you to count by tens, but I want you to start at the number 6 for me.
16, 26, 36, 46, 56, 66.
Okay. Can you start counting by tens at number 39 for me?
49, 59, 69, 79, 89, 99, 119.
Okay. He was incorrect on that. He never went 109, 119. So we are done with that level. And he is a level B mastery, which means he would receive instruction at level C. We'll go ahead and stop there, okay? All right, Reed, now I'm going to show you some numbers. And what I want you to do is I want you to read me those numbers, okay? All right, we're going to just quickly, this is the numeral identification part. There's no special training needed for this. We're just going to watch maybe the first one and then skip ahead to the next part, because I don't want to waste time doing something that's really easy to do. Okay, start right here. Start at the 3 and then go across, okay? Go ahead.
3, 5, 9, 10, 7, 4.
All right, Reed. Now, and he went through and he knew numbers up to 1,000. When he got to the numbers that were larger than 1,000, that's when he fell apart. And now we're on to the place value part, which is called skip counting by hundreds, tens, and ones. And this one, where it says show representation, you actually show the child a picture like you're going to see there. So some of this has to do, they're shown pictures, others they're asked questions where there are no pictures. Count the total amount of money. A dime, which is right here, is worth 10 cents. And a penny is worth 1 cent. So tell me how much is there. This is to see if they can count by tens and ones.
53.
Okay. Count the 10 rods in units for me. Count the 10 rods in the units and tell me how many are there. right, now I want you to count by tens and ones. For example, if we're going to count to 23, it would be done like this: 10, 20, 21, 22, 23. So it's now saying if they can do skip counting or split counting without a representation, if they're able to hold the count. Can you count to 42 by tens and ones?
Okay. 10, 20, 30, 40, 1, 2.
Okay, but it'd be done like this, like 40, 41, 40. Okay, to do it like that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, count to 36 by tens and ones.
Okay. 10, 20, 30. Wait, did you say 36?
36, yeah.
31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36.
All right, can you count to 104 by tens and then by ones? Okay, go ahead.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 101, 102, 103, 104, 105.
Okay, you can stop there. It was 100 and you're supposed to stop at 104.
Oh,
right.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, count the hundreds, 100 flats. This is now measuring if they can count hundreds, tens, and ones. The first one was just tens and ones. This one's now hundreds, tens, and ones. 10 rods in units for me.
Okay. 243.
Good job. All right, Reed. Now, I'm going to show you a number. The number is 345. Can you count to 345 by hundreds, and then by tens, and then by ones for me?
Okay.
All right, go ahead and try it. 345 by hundreds, tens, and ones. Go ahead.
100, 200, 300.
This is very hard to do.
310, 320, 330, 340, 341, 342, 343, 344, 345.
And he was a level D. He was able to do ones and tens with representation, ones and tens with no representation, hundreds, tens, and ones with representation, and hundreds, tens, and ones with no representation. Excellent job, Reed. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you some questions, and it's going to be about how to use 10. Okay. So, what is 10 more than 62?
10 more than 62 is 72.
Now, if you listen to what he did, he knew that. He knew it was 72. He didn't do like any counting on or anything. And so this is to see if they understand place value, not if they can add 10. So if he started counting by ones, that would be considered other or a wrong answer, because we're just seeing, are they able to quickly apply the place value concepts or not? And what is 10 less than 52? I'm sorry, 10 less than 62. What is 10 less than 62?
10 less than 62 is 52.
All right. What is 20 more than 43?
20 more than 43, 63.
And what is 20 less than 43?
Well, 23.
Okay. What is 100 more than 62?
100 more than 62 is 162.
All right. What is 100 more than 284?
100 more than 284 is 384.
Good. Okay. If I have 10 and I get 7 more, how many do I have? So that one was adding base 10. This one is adding from a base 10.
17.
If I have 70 and get 8 more, And remember, he said if I have 10 and get 7 more, he immediately knew it was 17. He didn't start counting by ones. That's, he just knew what it was. Again, this isn't to see if they can add. This is to see if they can use place value. How many do I have?
What?
If I have 70 and I get 8 more, how many do I have?
78.
If I have 100 and I get 32 more, how many do I have?
132.
All right, Reed. Now I'm going to show you some. So he was facile on both adding from a base 10 and adding a base 10. Some problems. So this next part has to do with measuring part whole. Okay, this is all about measuring part whole, and it's part whole 5, then part whole 10, then part whole 20. And the way this works is these are gonna be very familiar strategies that that you remember from the addition subtraction. What we're doing is is the child facile, which means do they just know these? Okay, because it's important that you just know these, because if you don't just know these and you have to calculate them, you're not going to be able to do the more advanced math fact strategies. So that's why it's important just to know them, okay? So we're going to go through and see how he does. And just so you know, for the first one, he goes like this. This is number 1, this is number 2. He does that, but he looks at that one. So it's going to look like he got it wrong, but he gets it right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start.
5.
Okay. What number go in that box right there?
Wait, the one that your thing's in?
Sorry, you did. Okay, so what number would go in this box? You went across and I went down. Okay, what number would go in this box right here?
4.
And what number would go in this box right here?
1.
All right, ready for the next one now? See where it says number 1 right there? Okay, so he was able to get facile flexible for all 4 of those, okay? And then you say, was he 100% accurate and were they all facile flexible? If you can answer yes and they're all facile flexible, you go down. Say he counts on for 1 or 2 and he gets the right answer. You cannot go on to the next one. They have to be facile flexible. What number would go? 7 plus something equals 10. What number would go in that box?
3.
1 plus something equals 10. What number would go in that box?
9.
Something plus 4 equals 10. What number would go in that box?
6.
And 5 plus something equals 10. What would number go in that box?
5.
Remember, no calculating. He just knows those.
All
He's
right.
facile. We're going to go 20 now. Ready? 14 plus something equals 20.
14 plus 6 equals 20.
All right. How'd you get that, Reed?
Well, I took away the one, and I knew just 6 plus 4 equaled 10. So then 14 plus 6 would probably equal 20.
You're absolutely right. Okay. All right. 17 plus something equals 20.
Plus 3.
All right. 8 plus something equals 20.
12.
And 5 plus something equals 20.
15.
All right.
Of these problems, tell me the missing number that should go in this box.
Now we're going to take a look at another student who struggles.
3.
First one, facile.
Tell me the missing number that should go in this box.
4.
Tell me the missing number that should go in this box.
5.
So far he's facile flexible on all of them.
Tell me the missing number that should go in that box.
9.
He said 9. What did he do? He added those. So technically, was he 100% accurate? No. So you go ahead and say, okay, we're going to work on 5. However, I feel like when you're giving this, there's times where you want to be as strict as possible, but you also want to get as much information. You know that he's very close to having mastery of 5. So we're just going to give him 10 and see how he does with 10.
Tell me the missing number that should go in this box.
What'd he do? He's using his fingers. He's recreating. He dropped back.
3.
Tell me the missing number that should go in this box.
9.
Vaso flexible.
Tell me the missing number that should go in this box.
Drop back.
6.
And this box.
5.
Vaso flexible. All right. So again, looking at it, he's very, very, very close to being probably more of a mastery of 5 working on 10. But anyway, so that's just what it looks like. Okay. Now we're going to go to the last part. And this is really a bad part to do over Zoom because it's meant for them to have paper in front of them. So he's trying to do this orally, which is really hard to do. But you're just saying, give me 12, give me all the combinations you can come up with. With the commutative property, there's 13 combinations that you can use that make this number up. The last question and we're done, okay? What I'd like you to do is tell me all the ways that you can make 12 by adding. All the numbers that can make 12. Can you give me the combinations?
6 plus 6.
If you need to write these down, you can write these down and tell me too, or you can try to do them from your head. 6 plus 6.
5 plus 7.
Okay.
10 plus 2.
Okay.
2 plus 10.
If you think about what he's doing, what this is doing, it's saying, okay, will he go 12 plus 0, 11 plus 1? Will he do it in that order and show he knows the structure? It's hard because he's not writing them down. If he's writing them down, he might have been able to do better. The next one is like partial knowledge, right? Where they're like, 11 plus 1, 10 plus 2, 9 plus 3, and then maybe 3 plus 9, 10 plus 2, 5 plus 7. The other one's sort of just random. And it seems like this one, he's just doing more random, but this isn't that great to do over Zoom. But anyway, so he would probably be a level B at this one. But if we were in person, he was writing them down. He might have been able to see the pattern and start using structure. So now what we're going to do is you're done with the assessment. You're going to go through, and this is the student progress monitoring sheet, which is on the back of the assessment. You're going to go through, and what you'll do is you're going to record the scores for the you're going to record the scores. And this is your baseline data, okay? So now what you'll do is this is important, you only give this assessment in its entirety one time. After that, you give it again to what you're working on, okay? It tests, I think, 13 different areas. And so you're not going to work on 13 areas at once. So let's just say for this student, we're gonna go ahead now, because what you have to do after you give the assessment, it's great, you have all these levels, but you have to figure out, okay, what the heck does this student need? What am I gonna work with him on? And so he's a first grader, okay? So what you'll want to do is take your framework with the plotting dots, and you're gonna go ahead and just kind of in the middle third, just put in 2 big lines, draw lines down the middle. And now what we're gonna do is say, okay, his numeric identification, what level was he? He was a C. So this puts him way above where he's supposed to be. For his forward counting, he was a E, which puts him way outside of first grade as well. His backward counting, he was a B. So if you take a look, oh, all right, that looks to be kind of outside that first grade zone. So even though he's really bright, we still have an area that we can work with him on. All right, his counting by tens, okay, he was a B. So he's pretty close to where that is. He wasn't able to make that jump into the hundreds, which is really common for a first grader. And he probably didn't get it right because he's never had instruction instruction on that area. His addition subtraction strategies were phenomenal. He was a level D. If we go through his part whole relationship, he was a level D, which meant he had mastery up to 20. And then his place value was very, very, very strong. And his place value was very strong, and he was a level D on all of those right down there. So now what we're going to do is say, okay, well, what will we work on this? What's standing out to you? Well, I see these two things right here. So I'll say, okay, we're going to work on backward counting and work on counting by tens. I have an idea that once he has those two skills worked on with him, he's going to pick up very, very quickly. So now we can do is say, all right, we're going to work on these. I'm guessing he's probably going to do really well with them. And now we can say, okay, look, this isn't just about interventions too. It's about what do we need to do to move him forward. So now what we can do is say, all right, we're going to work on it, addition level E and part whole level E. And remember, you can't test at a level E. The highest you can test is D, but E is your curriculum, is what you would work on. So now we're going to take a look. Okay, we're going to use our books. Let's see what he would work on, what Reed would work on. Okay, so we're going to go over some of the part whole, the higher level for part whole now, working on 100. And for so much of today, we focused on the lower students and students who struggle. And that is the primary intent. But remember, this program assessment also can be used to find your students who excel, and then finding things that you can do to sort of raise them to the next level too. So for the student that we just tested, we know that he had some very high testing. So we're going to go ahead and he mastered 20. So we're going to work on making 100. So we would go ahead and go to these lessons. Remember, this is all about the next 10, right? So if we're at 54, how much to get to the next 10, which would be 60. And 60 to 100 would be 40. So it would be 64. 26 plus something equals 100. Again, how much to get to the next 10? We would need 4. Remember, they're going to know 3 and 10 is 30. 3 and 7 makes 10. 30 and 70 makes 100. So that's what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get them to connect with. So you would go ahead and go through and do this lesson of making 100 through using, completing the next 10. And then you would go ahead and go to the book, and we will get to, it's going to take forever because there's a lot of practice in this book. And it goes through 5 and 10 and 20. Let's see, 100's coming. Finally. So we get to 100 and it starts off making just with decade numbers, and then it works to getting to the harder ones. So you say, okay, say we're doing this and he's having a hard time. Again, he can click on the YouTube clip. Algebraic thinking. Okay. Now it's going to be a little bit different because unfortunately, when making 100, it's not always going to be just decade numbers. Now what we have is we have the number 43. Don't panic because we know how to make 20. And if you know how to make 10 to help us figure this out, okay? 43, well, let's focus on that 10 of 40, okay? If we're in that 10 frame right there, 43. Just so you guys know, yeah, that's my voice, but that's not my voice right now. My voice is actually on those clips going through the lesson. So that's me talking in tenths of that right there. How much will we need to get to the next 10? In the next 10, we would need 7. And then next 10 is what? 50. So if we're at 50, how much more do we need to get to 100? And guess what? If we're at 50, we would need another 50. So what's our missing? So remember, the videos always link to the activities, which always link to the strategies, okay? So now what we'll do is we'll take a look at the higher end of addition subtraction now, and you'll see what addition subtraction would look like. Let me get it. Okay. So there we go. So say you are doing addition subtraction and you wanted to work on the splitting method, getting him ready for those algorithms. So you go and you would click on this, and it talks about, this is the lesson you do, 42 plus 31, and it splits it off, getting ready for that expanded form. So again, this is the lesson that you do, and go ahead and go through it. And it's pretty detailed. They're good lessons too. Goes through addition. Obviously, you're not going to do addition, subtraction the same day. And then what you would do is you would go to the addition, subtraction book, find the part that deals with the splitting, addition with splitting right here. So go ahead, you click on the YouTube link, and it's going to take you to the splitting for that formal algorithm. The formal algorithm is, take a look at this, 63 plus 21. The goal of when you're doing splitting is exactly what the strategy said. You're going to split the ones off from the 10. So we're going to go ahead and split the ones here, and we'll go ahead and we'll split the ones there. So now I think you get the point. So this is just the higher end of the program too. Students who are excelling, students who are doing really well, you can also use this to take them above and beyond. Okay, now with going back to this, there we go. So I want to go to the next one now. Okay, if you take a look at this one here, so this student is a second grader. Okay, if you take a look, we know the second grade one is this last third. So think he has like a ton of stuff that we want to work on. So chances are for students who struggle like this, you're going to be like, well, what am I supposed to work on first? Remember how the framework works. It starts from sort of top to bottom, right? You have to have these skills before you can do a lot of these skills that fall underneath it. So here's what it says. It says work from the top to the bottom. Don't work on more than 2 numeracy skills at the same time. If you try to fix everything at once, you won't fix anything. So you can't be like, okay, we're gonna work on all this, next week. You have to strategically pick, okay, what are we gonna do? So this one, think of this, it says tackle the counting forward and counting backwards first. So that would be these 2 skills right there. Once you have those in place, then you'd say, okay, next work on counting by tens and basic addition strategies. So this would be by counting by tens and basic addition strategies. Remember, never work on more than 2 skills at one time, all right? And then here's what's important too. It says, then tackle the part, whole, and place value, right? Which the part, whole, and place value are right here. But here's what's great about this is you will be surprised how connected skills gain strength as you improve other connected domains. That sounds really confusing, but what that means is when his counting by tens improves, his knowledge and understanding of place value is going to move too. So by the time you fill in this and fill in these 2 skills, by the time you get down here, the place value might already have moved and you didn't even technically work on strictly just the place value too. So remember, it's overwhelming when a child struggles because there's so many things to do. So don't just pick 2 skills. 2 skills, get them to move, and then go work on the next skills too. And remember, other skills can cause other skills to move too. I know I'm saying the word skills a lot, but again, counting by tens can cause that. And think about this. If his part whole improves, right? His part whole improves, it might help his addition and subtraction strategies too. So here's what it would look like for him. So if we're going to say we're going to tackle addition and subtraction, remember, all he's doing is re-representing, right? So what's our goal? We want him to start counting on. So what we're going to do now is take a look at the range of the addition and subtraction. We just saw the level E, which is the highest range of addition and subtraction, which took us to the jumping and splitting strategy. Now remember, with this student, he scored much, much lower, and he was still re-representing every single fact. So what we're trying to do with the goal of this is level A or B, because he tested at A, is we're trying to get him to count on. So we would go ahead and go right here and click. And we're going to go to addition screen. And this is how many fingers are there? There's 5. And now there's a mitten on the glove. So it's going to force him to go 5, 6, 7, 8. So he doesn't get used to, rebuilding, okay? So there's all these different problems that deal with a screen something. So he has to get used to counting on. Now there's ones like this too, where it's like, okay, there's 4 under the cup. How many are there total? So again, instead of him trying to build, you want him to go 4, you want him to go like this, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there's problems like that too. And then there's dropping ones in the bucket, again, getting him to count on. Oh. And then I haven't really shown you this, but these online practice, these can be used as two things. It can be used as like something you were to do as a whole group or something you assign to your students too. So if we do like addition dice, this is just, adding the dice, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, teaching them to do that. And then say subtraction screened, something like this where we're like, okay, so there's 10 counters. So if there's 10 counters, and we took 8 of them away, how many are going to be underneath the hand? 2. Okay. And we can go next one. If there's 10 counters and 5 are moved from under the hand, how many are under the hand? It would be 5. So activities like that as well. Then after you're done, what you can do is you can go ahead and go to the addition part right here. And so say we're going counting on and he's struggling still. He can go ahead and click on the YouTube clip. If there were 5 counters in the box, how many are there in the box after 4 more are dropped in? And so this is an interactive one where it has a story problem, it reads it, and then it does it, and it can help them solve it as well. So here in the after 2 more are dropped. And that's just showing the lower side of the range of the addition and the subtraction. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the framework and how the framework works with the, one of the most important things, the leveled activities guide, because the framework is great, but the activities are what is going to move students from one level to the next. So I just want to go over the structure of the leveled activities guide. Now you've seen this one all day long, and so here's the second page of it. So it has to do with forward counting, backward counting, addition, subtraction strategies, counting by tens. Then the other part has to do with numeral identification, application of place value concepts, and part-whole relationship. I just want to make sure this is really clear to you guys, okay? So what this is designed to do is, if you are looking at it, if you are looking at this, you want to say, okay, the child's a level A. Level means that they're using non-facile strategies or can't make 5, all right? So if you take a look though, under level A, all the activities have to do with level 5. Now, if a child is a level B, it means they can solve the 5, but take a look. These aren't 5, these are 10. So the way that this is set up, you just look at the level and go straight down. Normally, you'd have to say, okay, they're level B, now I'm working on level C. This simplified the process. So if they're level B, these are level C things they'll do. If they're a level C, these are the level D things. And if they're a level D, these are the level E things. So all you do is just look at it. We'll go back to this. And if you take a look here, it talks about like for counting by tens, counts to 100 starting at 10. Counting by tens, it's the same activities. The only thing that changes are the numbers, okay? Or if you take a look at, counting level B means that they can count to 20. So if you take a look, all of these activities are greater than 20. So it's set up, you just look at it and go. And even if you are a little confused about it, once you're doing it, if you're like, okay, child's a level B, he mastered 5, and I'm working on 5, that doesn't make sense. So you'll sort of catch the error on your own. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at, emergent, perceptual, and figurative counting, okay? And this is where this part of the addition subtraction strategies.
Oh, thank you, Clinton.
So what he just did, emergent counter, think like a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, kind of makes sounds, maybe says a couple numbers, no real order. That's what emergent counter would be. Here's what a perceptual counter is.
With the counters, we'd like to watch what happens here. I'm taking 9 counters, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 counters, and underneath here, I'm having 4 counters. How many counters would there be altogether? There were 9 counters and 4 counters.
So can I count from the 4 to the 9 or the 9 to the 4?
Well, whichever way is easier for you to count.
4.
You think so?
This is 9.
Here, that's 5. Have you got 9 now? Right, well you've got the 9 counters.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And there are 4 counters under here. So how many would there be altogether?
4, 9.
So if you take a look, she's perceptual, which means she has to re-represent, if you remember that term, re-represent everything. And so that is a perceptual counter. And finally, a figurative counter is they don't need to see it, but they need to visualize it and imagine it.
I've got 9 counters here and 4 counters there.
Thirteen.
13. I wonder why you said 13. Can you tell me how you got 13?
I counted it in my brain.
Can you tell me how you counted it in your brain?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13.
Right, let's just have a check. There were 4 there and 9 here. So that's 9 and 4 makes 13. You were correct, Kapasha. Good.
So if you watch that again, what you'll see is he's looking down at the screen and his head is bobbing. He's pretending he can see those. Okay, next we're going to look at the basic addition subtraction strategies and then addition subtraction strategies to 20. And these are both really quick.
This time, I'm taking 7 counters. Do you want to watch? 2, 4, 6, 7. 7 counters. And as well, I'm taking some more counters. Now I've got 7 counters there and some more under here. Altogether, there are 11. Now, how many do you think I've got underneath here?
Is there 7?
7 under there.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4.
4. Let's have a look.
And finally, addition subtraction strategies to 20.
All right, I'm going to ask you some questions, see if you can work out the answer for me. If I had 8 cards and someone gave me another 7 cards, how many would I have altogether?
15.
And how did you work that out?
Because I know 8 and 2 is 10. And then I had 5 left, so I know that 10 and 5 is 15.
And this just shows, the levels of the levels that will be within your class and whether, emergent's really rare. Even kindergartners who, even kindergartners no exposure, it's very hard for them to be emergent, but it's still possible. But you could have emergent in kindergarten normally, and then in 1st and 2nd grade, it's all perceptual, figurative, counting on, counting back, and flexible. Okay, what we're gonna do now is, this used to be a live workshop, okay? So when you would walk into the workshop, there were always these activities pointing or hanging up. So what we're gonna do now is, we're going to go through just some of the activities that you can do, and these are from the level activities guide. So if you take a look, here's the framework, and then what'll pop up is these are just the different activities that can be done too. So what I want to do is this is going to be available for you to look at in our materials. There's a place where you can go. I don't want to spend the next 45 minutes just having you watch activities. I want to show you a couple from each one, and then you'll have the resource to go back because these really are really good activities in the live workshop. This was my favorite part, going through all the activities. So we'll just watch a couple, right? And these are counting activities and basic addition subtraction activities, and then we'll go on to other ones. Okay. up to 20 or 50 or 100 or past, and I'll show you how it works. So what you do is just get a regular standard calculator. You go ahead and hit the plus sign twice. One, and then when you hit equals, and so your calculator now becomes a counting machine. So say you have students who are just working on counting to 20, you could go ahead and have them do, plus 1 up to 20. Say it's a student who's struggling to do that transition from the 90s into the hundreds, so you could go ahead and do 90 plus 1 equals 91, 92, 93, and then you can differentiate it between where your students are. This is a great activity you can do like as a warm-up the first 3 or 4 minutes in class. And it works really, really well for all students. So also, not only is it going to be a forward counting machine, but say you have students who are struggling counting backwards, you could say, okay, start at 56 minus 1 equals, and now it is a backward counting machine as well. A lot of times the number line just becomes a decorative piece. It's up there, but we don't use it that often. So this is a way to really utilize what you have to.
And this number line comes in your materials as well.
So you could go ahead and just have students go ahead and take a number line and just 9, 10, 11, 12. They have to do is sequencing as well. All right, going back to the number line now. Another activity you can do with the number line is you can go ahead and screen or cover up numbers and then ask your students questions about them and say, okay, what number is this? And we're all looking at it and we know it's 13. This is where you can develop some very important language. So we know it's 13. Well, how can we prove that it's 13? Well, I know that 13 comes, what a lot of people like to do because counting by tens is so hard for kids, especially when kids are learning to count by tens, leaving those single digit numbers, jumping into the teens. It's like a language thing, like, 6, 16, 26. A lot of kids struggle with that. So what this is called a 10 catcher. And what you can do is it shows kids, it jumps 10 for them. So if you're at 8, and we jump 10, it goes to 8. It helps them with visualization, sort of that spatial relationship. Think about what fractions is. Fractions is parts of, what falls between 0 and 1. This is obviously 0 and 100, but it teaches them sort of that estimation and understanding where parts will fall when you can't see them, because that's what fractions is. Let's do another one. Okay, what number would this be? And let's take a look, and you're all probably thinking, I think that's probably 40, and let's take a look, and that is definitely 40. Instead of 100 missing numbers, there's now 1,000. Say 40 would actually be somewhere probably about half is 50 right there. I'd say 40 would be somewhere probably right there. So you could go ahead and show your students that.
That was the 1,000 number line.
Way too. 69, and that's 58. Well, if we're counting by tens, right?
These are 100 grid puzzles. You just take 100 grid, you cut it up, and then they have to say, okay, 10 more than 56 would be 66. What number comes before 67 would be 66.
And it means you're getting for this, or go puzzle where they have to use a bucket too, but you just need a cup that you cannot see.
Teach kids to count on. It's called bucket counting.
Through, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so we all agree, and we take a look. There's 0 in the cup. Ready? How many are in the cup? And we know that I just put in 3, and we could hear click, click, click. All right, ready? There's how many are in the cup? 3. Now how many are in the cup? And there's 5. And think about it. What is helping us keep track of the counts? It's every time we put one in, we hear a click, click, click. So now there's 5 in the cup. And what are we teaching them to do right now? We may not even realize it, but what we're doing, we're teaching them how to count on, right? We hit 3 in the cup. We put 2 more. They have to go 3. You can always do that by counting there. And now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put a 9 card in there. So we know that we're starting off with 9. And then I can go 9. Count by ones. If you have a set of the cups, you have all together. We know there's 4 here and there's 2 there. And how many are there all together? It would be 4, 5, 6. Again, remember we're doing all the numbers already. So you want to start as we're 4, 65, 66. You
can put in tens as well.
So I had 44, 10 more would be 54, 64, 65, 66. You can do more counters. Again, you can get to a point where you're screening both. And again, if you want to see this in detail, they really are good to watch. But there's a resource where you'll be able to go through and you'll be able to watch these videos in its entirety. Okay, the next one is we're going to talk about subitizing. And picture this, subitizing is actually would be considered before part whole. Okay, and so this is like a skill that they need to have in place before they can even start working on part whole 5. And again, with subitizing, there is regular patterns and there's irregular patterns, okay? And they have to learn the regular patterns first before they can use the irregular patterns. And then once you use the irregular patterns, that's when you start teaching about part whole, like, oh, this is 4, but how did we make it? We made it with 3 and 2. Oh, this right here is 5. It's made with 3 and 2. Conceptual uses 2 different colors, but they'd be like 6, 7. And then this one, these are in your materials as well. It's just a bunch of cards, and it shows 6 made a bunch of different ways. And so that's what this is. And we'll just watch it for a second. A board game that's on an Xbox, and it rolls the dice for them. So kids don't really have a lot of experience, but go that you can and doing activities where they learn just the standard dice pattern. How many over there? 4. And so once your kids are able to do flashes, they're able to do subitize 3 here, and there was 2 standard pattern, sort of manipulate to a picture, to a pattern, so that this is, and again, if you want more information, I'll show you where you go to watch this entire video. All right, next we're going to look at working on part whole 5. Okay, the first tool we're going to use to practice making 5 is called the 5 frame. Now you may be familiar with 10 frames, but a lot of times we start kids from left to right, and you don't want them to do sort of polka dots like this, okay? Polka dots can be very confusing to our brain, and so we want to make sure we're using the right. What your students may do is they may want to clear off the card completely and then start over. And when you have 2 colored counters, all you can say to your students is, okay, I want you to make 5, I want you to make 5 in a very common. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is, and this is another concrete activity that you can do, and this is just doing finger flashes. So you could go ahead and flash 3 back to something like this. Okay. If there's 3 here, and I know there's 5 total, how many have to be in my hand? The question that you ask is 2 under there. All right. And then over here, we'd say, okay, if they're rising earlier, there's 4 here. And remember, these come with your materials as well. So if there's 4 here, how many would be under here? And it would be 1. Or you could go ahead and say if there's 5, the digit is by giving them the digit cards. Okay, the first tool. All right, next we'd move to 10. And the thing that's most important about 10 and working on 10 is kids have to know their combinations of 10. Because if they don't know their combinations of 10, they're going to struggle making 20 and then struggle making 100 because the concept of make the next 10. So for example, if you know what goes with 6 to make 10, you're going to know with what goes with 16 to make 20 and what goes with 26 to make 30. And those are all strategies called, using the next 10. Okay, the first thing is when introducing 10, you want to make 10 a different way by clearing their card. You just want them to go ahead and go, okay, let's take a look here. So we had 8 and 2, now we have 7 and 3. An adult, they will have to end up counting, so you just want to keep that base there. So research on multiple representation, and all that means is that the more times a child sees something here, we have concrete exposure, and now we're going to look at how we can scaffold this. Just like we did with the 5, you can go ahead and remember this is called hide and peek. You can go ahead and break some off and say, all right, if I have 7 here, how many have to? It's knowing those combinations. Necessarily subitizing, it's more. And so whether they're fronted with 8 or 2, they still should know the answer. So again, if this is 2, look like, right? We wouldn't cut it in half, say this is 3, what is that? So this part has to be 2. So very concrete. We started doing that algebraic thinking with it. So the last thing that we are going to do now is we're going to work just purely with the digits, okay? Last one would be 9. And again, there's a resource where you can go and you can watch all the 10 videos. Now on to 20. In the first grade, and it's making 10, and I'm going to put a arrow card here. So everybody remembers, okay, yes, this is 10. And I'm going to go ahead and have everybody remember that. So that's 10. So 10 would be 3. So what's going to go with 17 to make 10? And again, that's going to go ahead and that's going to be 3. Okay. So what you're doing goes with 8 to make 10 would be 2. So what's going to go with 18 to make 10 is also going to be 2. All right. So remember, kids are really good at 9 and 8 and here and constantly changing. You could do rounding, how to do that. Just go ahead. So it's a 10 rack. So we have, and then back and read 8, and we need to get to 20. How much more we need? A lot of kids are going to go ahead there and try to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up. So your teachers say, okay, we need to get to 20. Go ahead and go right there. And again, you can watch 20 in its entirety, and I'll show you when this is over. Where 20 can be found at. 100 would be next. So when you make 100, make 100 abacus right here. And all we're doing right now is we're going to say, all right, let's take a look at the different numbers that we make a 100, which it does. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to chunk it off here like that. 4. So let's go ahead and we'll build, right? So our ones are going to be 6. And then once we get to the next 10 would be 60, right? So if we're at 60, then 60 to 100 would be how much? And it would be 40. So our answer would be 46. Be working just the numbers like this, okay? Remember, starting off with the decades first. Okay, if this is 40, what would that missing number be? And we know that it would be 60. Right? And again, starting off with the decades and then having them sort of finish off that decade number and then working their way through 100. It would be 56. So again, just using many different ways to have them work on it. And once you get to the next 10, we know that would be 2, which gets us to 40. And then 40 to 100, the jumping method, that's too much. So you could do it 100. So what we want to do is we're trying. And again, that's what trying to figure out right here what that number would be, what that missing number is. And remember, we're at 65. Addition, subtraction. And again, if you want to watch this in more detail, you can. There's a place where you can watch all the activities of making 100. And this last one has to do with just math fact strategies right here. If you remember, we went through the basic ones. We had to wait to go through these ones because you need to have the part-whole relationship in order. So now I'll show you what just some of the activities for addition and subtraction would be. So I'll just click one right here, click on it. And this takes you to our we're looking at, we're saying, okay, what can we, let's take a look at this one. 9 plus 6. Again, it's very easy when you can get to a 10 because you can just get to a 10 and quickly add on if you understand place value, that is. And let's take a look. If we shift one over, we no longer are dealing with 9 plus 6. We now have a math problem of 10 plus 5. And then for like jumping and splitting, we'll talk about these ones right here. Just go ahead and click it and it'll take you to a jumping lesson. So let's go ahead and do our jumps now. So 45, 55, 65, 75. And now we have 2 ones to count on. So we'll go 75, 76, 77. And so, so the way this goes, or it's organized, if you take a look right here, early counting, then basic addition, subtraction, the more advanced strategies. And then this gets up to, decade combinations, jumping and splitting method, expand and notation. And so these are all strategies that are there. Remember, this is just from the level activities guide, the types of things you could do too. And finally, the doubles will be the last one. And that's a YouTube clip too. 5. Now, say we choose to use the 3, right? Or under the 9 plus 8, the 8 plus 8. So are we 1 less than the answer or 1 more than the answer? And we right now are 1 less. So we would do 8 and 8 is 16, 1, 17. And remember, for this strategy to be teaching them their doubles at the same time, you're almost. Okay, and again, once we go through, I will show you guys exactly where these are so you can watch them in their entirety.
So now we're going to go over just some of the additional trainings that we have You all just went through, obviously, if you're watching this, you know that we have our level 1 courses, and our level 1 courses are free, and they're a really good introduction, right? It's a lot of surface level stuff, though, the basics of the framework, the basics of the assessment. If you're looking for more in-depth training, we have paid courses too, which we have our level 2 and our level 3 courses. Okay. So for the primary numeracy, you just watch primary numeracy level 1. For level 2, primary numeracy, what level 2 does, it does a quick review of all the things that are in level 1, and then it gets into really the materials. It goes through the assessment in great detail, so you understand all aspects of the assessment and kind of scoring it across different scenarios. And then it gets into using the framework along with the materials. So that's what level 2 is. And level 2, that costs $85. And the great thing is, whether you're watching this with one person or 20, it only costs $85 because it's a one-day rental. It's like you're renting a movie. So you have a 24-hour window where you can go through and rent this, and you can have access to that level 2. If you're interested in even further training or deeper level training for primary numeracy, probably the best course we offer is this level 3 course number 1. This has to do with essentially creating student groups and how to differentiate within that instruction. So it shows you there's not much focus on the assessment when you're in the level 3 courses. It's more how do you take that data and create your student groups. And more importantly, your groups are going to have students who are all at different levels. How do you efficiently instruct your students across all these different levels? So that's what the level 3 primary numeracy course number 1 is about. The level 3 primary numeracy course number 2, this is called a student in crisis. And what this has to do with a student who is two years or more behind. What does this program look like for them? What does their individual learning plan look like? And how do you even get started? Okay, so that's what the level 3 course has to do with. We have other courses too. We have our level 2 multiplicative thinking. Again, this is one, it goes over the main components from the level 1 training. And then there's a lot of depth on the scoring of the assessment in the framework. And then we have our level 3 multiplicative thinking course number 3. This has to do with program selection. So you may have students who are 3rd, 4th, or 5th graders who really need to be in all 3 programs. How do you choose what program's right for them at what point in time? And then this has to do with going through and designing instruction for multiplication, mastering that framework, and going through all of the instruction. And then again, how will you plan and what will your instruction look like? Really deep course. And then we have the fractional reasoning course number 4. This gets into just more depth. We have the free fractional reasoning webinar that is free. This one just goes into more depth and really breaks down that assessment and the domains and what instruction will look like. And it shows samples of instruction too. That's a good thing with a lot of these. It shows what it looks like in the classroom too. You're not just being told, you'll see what lessons look like and what it looks like when they're doing their instruction. So these are just some of the additional trainings that we have. You never have to take any of these. We always have our level 1, which are free, but if you're looking for more depth, we have our level 2 and our level 3 courses. One last thing too is if you want and you take a look at the bottom, there are the agendas or I guess you could say the course description, the agendas for each of these. You can go ahead and take a look at those and it will help you. Let me go on one. So right here, I'll just go through the agenda, and then there's certain materials that you can click on for note-taking and things. And if you look at the level 3 courses, this is actually your note-taking packet too. So this is what it looks like, and then it goes through the slides that you would go through, and this is where you would take your notes for everything too. So if you want to take a look at those course packs will give you a good idea of what the course actually looks like, the things that you'll be learning about, and oops, I did not mean to click on that. I'll go to the course pack. So like for the multiplicative thinking course, you can go ahead and take a look in those course packs and it'll take you through and you'll see exactly what you'll be learning about and all the things for that too. So just one more thing, those agendas and those course packs are available that you'll be able to download and take a look to see if that course is something that you're interested in. So now we're going to go over all the free materials that you'll receive today. The first thing and most important thing you're going to get today is the primary numeracy assessment. And you will be getting 2 versions of it, version 1 and version 2. And there is no difference between the two. One is not newer, one is not better than the other. What it is, it's just small changes measuring the same areas, but the idea is so you're not asking students to constantly count across the same ranges, right? Or starting at the exact same number within that range. Or when you're doing the addition subtraction, not always seeing the same 8 problems. So it's mixed up like that. that. So when you're doing progress monitoring, you'll have 2 assessments that you can kind of go in between if need be for progress monitoring. So there's fidelity, so they're not constantly seeing the exact same one, especially for addition subtraction. If they're seeing the same 4 problems week after week after week after week, it's going to lose some of its fidelity. So that's why there's a version 1 and there's a version 2, and you really should be using them equally. And next, you'll be receiving the primary numeracy framework. And once you have your assessment data, you go ahead and you plot the assessment data on this document, and it helps you really zero in on finding your target skills. What are the students' strengths? What are their weaknesses? What do we want to learn? We know that you were trained about that earlier. Also, a great resource that you'll have for free is the leveling chart. So not everyone who you're going to be working with is going to have had this training. So when you're trying to explain it, if you're like, oh, they're accounting level A or level B, no, parents, other teachers, administration, they're not going to know what that means. So this chart can really help you explain it to them. You're like, all right, we have a 3rd grader, but they're counting at like a kindergarten level. And so this is why we're choosing these particular skills. And even though they're in 3rd grade, this is why we're working on those types of skills with them. So these 2 are a really good combo of materials that you'll get and that you'll be able to use. The next resource that you will receive today is the Level Activities Guide. And as you learned earlier in this training, how to use the Level Activities Guide, you will have it. This Level Activities Guide is probably about 10 years old, and it used to be when you were looking for the hands-on portion of your instruction, or when you want to do an activity with your students, this is where you would go. But now in March 2025 is when this is currently being recorded. This part of it is we now have instant intervention. Remember, you're going to be getting access to instant intervention for counting by ones and counting by tens. And all the instant intervention really is taking these activities that were on the Level Activities Guide, and they're now prepackaged for you. So you just pull up the lesson card, click on where it says materials, click here, you print them up, and it takes less than 2 minutes of prep time to go ahead and do that. Under the old way, you'd have to go in, figure out what the activity was, and kind of go into our drive and look for the material. So everything really has been simplified for you. So you'll be getting that Level Activities Guide and the instant intervention for counting by ones and counting by tens. And the next resource that you'll be receiving is the eLibrary 2.0 for counting by ones and counting by tens. Remember, the 2.0 is where you will have your introduction lessons, right? There's always going to be a mini lesson that you'll be able to go through, and those mini lessons will have prompts and everything set, and all you have to do is just click on the mini lesson, read through the prompts. Obviously, you can add other things you want to the lesson, but it'll take you through. You'll work on that lesson with those students. And then when you're done with that lesson, there's a student practice piece that you would go ahead and you'd click right there, and then the practice piece would pop up, and then you'd be able to do that practice piece. So you will be getting eLibrary 2.0 for counting by ones and counting by tens. And also remember too, there is a progress monitoring part too. So when you go through on this progress monitoring part down here, you just click on whatever level it is, and the progress monitoring will pop up, and then you'll be able to use this as progress monitoring, as well as remember talk about version 1 of the primary numeracy assessment, and version 2 you'll be able to do progress monitoring with that 2.0 as well. You'll also be receiving the eLibrary 1.0 for counting by ones and counting by tens. And just so you know, the 2.0 is a more updated version. It's more structured. There's prompts. 1.0 is more of a supplemental resource. It's not as structured. It's more like if you need more practice and you felt like that 2.0, that first lesson didn't do enough, then you could go to the 1.0. The 1.0 doesn't have as many prompts. It's just, you click on level A and it's like, oh, we're counting by tens. I need to go through and count these things too. Now, one thing that you will use a lot is the 1.0, the eLibrary, or the 1.0, the workbooks. The workbooks are loaded with lots and lots of practice. There's more practice in the 1.0 than you would ever use. But so if you have a student they're struggling to count by tens, and you do that 2.0, and then say you did the instant intervention, and then you did some of the supplemental ones from the 1.0, there's a lot of extra practice that's in that 1.0 workbook too. So that's a place where you'll be able to go, and you will be getting access to that as well. Another great resource that you'll have is if you go to our website, numeracyconsultants.net, and you click on our games page, there are lots and lots of games, and they're categorized by counting or addition, subtraction, or part whole. So these are great. Just remember, a lot of these are meant to be interactive between you and the student. Some of them are not really used not designed where you would just assign a student, say, okay, play this and you're going to get your lesson. A lot of it's where you are, you're taking the lead and then you're prompting, asking questions and doing it with them. So just be aware of that. Also, if you go to YouTube and you go to Numeracy Consultants, we have a ton of videos that are up there. That's a really great resource. And you will also be getting access to our Google Drive. In just another few minutes, I'll show you how to get into our Drive. And our Drive is where all these free resources and everything can be located. Okay, so we talked about, we'll just go over real quick. You got today for all the things that you got for free, you got the counting 2.0, counting by ones and counting by tens, the 1.0, counting by ones and counting by tens, the workbook from 1.0, counting by ones and counting by tens. You also got the instant intervention, counting by ones and counting by tens too. So those are all the things that you received today for free. Now we have other library or lesson libraries, I guess you could call it, and things that you can purchase too that you did not get for free today. And so the addition subtraction lessons, the part whole lessons, and the place value, those are all purchased ones. So I'll go over the pricing with you in a little bit for how much the 2.0 or the bundles are, how much everything costs. But remember, even if you decide that you're like, my school doesn't have the money, or you just don't want to make the additional purchase, you still have a lot of things today that you receive for free. And the great thing is too, is you'll have the assessment, you'll have the frameworks, you have the leveling charts, you have all the things that you need. You also have this leveled activities guide. In between the leveled activity guide and our Drive, there's still a lot of things that you can do for instruction. Now, obviously, it's going to be easier if you have the pre-made lessons and you have the workbook pages and all those things. But you still, with a little bit of planning and going through, you still will be able to give that assessment and come up with activities that you could do to help improve your students. You have multiple assessments too, where you'll be able to use it for progress monitoring. So even if you decide you don't want the additional libraries, that's fine. You still have plenty to really get a good solid core of a math intervention in place to help you along your way. Now we'll go over pricing real quick, and I'll show you where you need to go to get your materials. So now we'll go over pricing, and the way the pricing is, everything is licensed, okay? So you have the option to buy an individual teacher license, you have the option to buy a school license, or you have the option to buy a district license. And just so you know, once you purchase a license, this part right here, this is not a subscription. Once you purchase it, the library and the workbooks and the lessons, those are all yours, okay? So right now, the K through 3 bundle, which really goes along with the courses that you just watched with primary numeracy, for an individual teacher, it'd be $350. Now we have other courses too. We have a multiplicative thinking one and a fractions one. Say you watch that and you're like, I really want to get everything all together. I want to get it bundled. Then you can go ahead and get that. And that would be, you can get that bundled together. That'd be $425. If you want to get a single school license for just the K through 3 bundle, that 1.0 and 2.0 would be $1,500. And if you wanted to get the, excuse me, if you wanted to get the K through 5 2.0, 1.0 multi-thing and fraction, it'd be $19.95 for the school. District licensing is you get a $200 discount per school, so it'd be $17.95 per school. Now down here where it's the instant intervention lessons, that's like the yearly subscription, and that is both for primary numeracy, which you saw. Also in September 2025, there will be the multiplication division. Those instant intervention pre-made lessons will also exist as well. So this is a subscription if you want to add the lessons on, and for a single teacher it's $75 per year. So if one teacher wants to get it, $75, it's a 1 year, and then it'll be up to you to renew after that, and that gives you access to all those instant intervention. For a single school, if a school has multiple people who are using it, so it's $300 a year for the school, and if there's 30 teachers at the school, 30 teachers get access. If there's 50 teachers at the school, 50 teachers get access. And finally, if you do a district license, okay, a district license is $250 per school. So say a district has, 4 schools, it would be $1,000 for the year, and they have 200 teachers. All the teachers have access to that. So this is just how the pricing works. If you have any questions, I'll show you where the order form is at. We have our email addresses on that. You can always ask us and email us questions about how this works. But remember, if you're looking at sort of those libraries up here, those are a one-time purchase. If you're looking at that instant intervention, that's a yearly subscription, and it's pretty affordable, but there's a subscription if you wanted to add those lessons. And the one thing with the instant intervention too is those will always be updated and new things will always be added to that. And now I'll show you how to get the materials. So you just go to our website, numeracyconsultants.net. It does not matter whatever page you're on. At the very bottom, there's a copyright. If you see it down here, you just click on the copyright. It's going to take you to all of the different free materials we have for all of our different programs. I highly recommend, you'll see this in Drive, for the primary numeracy program, which you just watched. This is 10 minutes long. Watch the 5-day instructional plan. It really breaks down and goes through how to use the material, sort of the sequence. Really, really good resource to have. Anyways, you'll go to the primary numeracy intervention materials, and you'll go ahead and you'll click on this. And it'll take you to our drive. So it's very busy when you first get in, so I'll quickly go over everything. There's folders that you want to make sure you realize those folders are, but first, there is the order form. So the order form is how you go ahead and you would do the ordering. Then we have the eLibrary 1.0 workbook, which we talked about with that. You have the eLibrary supplemental lessons and practice for the 1.0. We've talked about that before. You have the eLibrary 2.0 for counting and for counting by tens, and that's all here. And also, I want to tell you, if you download this, it makes it clickable, so you're able to click it. If you're just looking at it in Google Viewer, you will not be able to click on it. That 5-day instructional plan video, again, I strongly recommend you watch that. Then you also have this that goes along with that 5-day instructional plan. It kind of goes through the materials. One thing I want to point out to you or to remember is when you see, excuse me, when you see anything has this to say with like the leveled activities guide, remember that instant intervention is those lessons that are all prepackaged that are there. This is very important. This is called the levels and lessons. And what this does, it essentially says like, all right, when you have your assessment and then you map out everything on the framework right there, this tells you exactly what books to use, what level e-lesson, what level to use in the workbook. And there's also, if you click on this little video up here, there are little videos that are like 10 minutes long, and it goes through this for counting and addition, subtraction, and so on. So this is a great resource. It's a cheat sheet almost. You just, when you have their tested level, oh, if they're a level A on the framework, I go to level B e-lessons, and I go to level B in the workbooks. And then again, there's little videos up there. They're about 7 to 10 minutes long, and it will go through and show you everything of, how to use that framework, how to use that level activities guide and everything with that. So a great resource to use for that right there. The instructional levels and videos map, which is right there. Excuse me. And then we have, this is just what you get for free. Then we've talked about what you have to pay for. Okay, these folders up here are very important. Assessment materials, everything that's in here is the assessment. So you have the tips and reminders. This is just like a note or a cheat sheet that can help you when you're administering that assessment. This is if you're doing it, over teleconference, or you just want to pull this up on your laptop and have students, for the questions, you can do it that way. You have version 1, which is right here. You also have version 2, which is right there. And then we also have the version 1 is in Spanish if you needed to administer it in Spanish. And that is right there in the folders. There's the framework and leveled materials one. This has to do with levels now. Anything has to do with levels. So this would be something, if you're working with a group of students, you kind of write their names in there so you know who is what level. And then we have other trainings that show you how to do things like that. Then you have the level activities guide, which we've spent some time talking about. Right here is the level activities. What happens is if you click on this YouTube link, it will actually show you how to do those activities that are there. So this video right here goes along with, you have the level activity guide. Then you have this little cheat sheet where you can go ahead and watch the videos. We have the leveling chart. You have the framework in here. One of the frameworks has the plotting dots on it, which is the one you'll use. The other one is just a clean framework of what it looks like without the plotting dots. You have instant intervention. Please don't forget about that. This is the instant intervention. And what this is exactly it. You just go through here. You find the lesson you want. You can go ahead and zoom in on it. You have your lesson card. You click right here. The materials pop up. You go ahead, you print it. Less than 2 minutes of prep for that. So you have that instant intervention for that. Yeah, your instant intervention. Also, you have the order form that's in there for that as well. And there's different places where you can get the order form for that. And it also just has a level activities guide. Remember, instant intervention, these lessons right here all come from essentially the level activities guide. They're just prepackaged for you. All right. And finally, you have the printable resources. You have addition, subtraction, and counting. It's just different things to support you along the way. When you're looking to do lessons and things like that, there's quite a few things that are in there. And when you watch those videos, I talked about for the framework right here, a lot of those materials are in that printable materials part right here. So when you're watching these videos, you may say like, well, where do I go and get those things again? When you go, when you're watching those videos, you go into the printable resources part, whole, place value, whatever you're clicked on, and that's what you'll work on too. I'm sorry, my throat is very dry right now. And so that is everything that you will need for that. So you have all your materials that are in here. Last thing, I'll just go back to the website. And so one thing is we don't do any advertising, so please, if you came across this, I would share it on social media or let other people know through email or find that would be great. We really appreciate that. We do not advertise. Pretty much Google and word of mouth is how everybody finds us. We also have other intervention programs. I strongly recommend the word problem intervention program, the K through 3 primary numeracy. That's all about like the numbers and the skills and the raw skills and in the mathematical reasoning. This is all about problem solving, teaching them about the structures of different problems and different strategies. And so these two programs are a really good combination that you can use together. Also, we've already talked about this. We have our different trainings and things that you can go to our training page too. So please feel free to look at those. Remember, we have a lot of level 1 courses that are free. Then we have paid level 2 and level 3 courses. So, all right, if you ever have any questions, you can always go to our contact and you can email us any questions you have about anything. And you can go to numeracyconsultants.com or email us at any one of these email addresses, and someone will get back to you relatively quickly. So thank you for your time. Please share this with other people. And if you have any questions, please let us know. So thank you for viewing today.